Well, right now at 6, voters in Kansas and Missouri head to the polls yesterday. We'll take a look at final results and current standings.
And we've got a nicer start to the day and a nicer afternoon ahead of us, albeit a bit breezy. Look at that forecast, get you out the door coming up.
Plus, Kansas passes a number of new laws. We'll take a look at their possible impacts.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Elise Nelly.
I'm Chris Warner. It is now Wednesday. It's April the 9th.
Yes.
Halfway through this work week, and this day, much better than a week ago.
Yes.
We had all that severe weather, so certainly calmer out there, breezy for sure,
yes.
but
not too bad.
Not bad compared to last week, and that's a good thing because, boy, it was just a wild Wednesday last week. But today, much better and much warmer this morning than where we were the last couple of mornings as well. Let's start with that look outside. Downtown Pittsburgh from 4th and Broadway. Looking back to the southeast, we are looking pretty good. Same from the MoDOT camera at 20th and Range Line in Joplin. Things looking great. We do have some partly cloudy skies out there, and that's going to be the case as we head into the afternoon as well. South winds will be increasing. They're already gusting a bit this morning. They'll gust even more as we head through the day, upwards of about 35 miles an hour. So be prepared for that. Because that's some pretty gusty winds, especially for high-profile vehicles. But our temperatures today, pretty nice. And out west, maybe even a little warmer than most of us. So we're going to say maybe take Chanute to Coffeyville, this really poorly drawn line I'm making here, and go that way. Might be a little warmer than everyone else. All of us, though, starting a lot better than yesterday morning. 51 in Pittsburgh right now. We're sitting at 55 in Joplin. Cassville's been the cold spot all morning. Still are at 47. But again, Stockton was the cold spot most of yesterday morning, and their coldest was 28. So 47's not that bad. We got 48 Monette, 49 Stockton. And Yates Center and Chanute have kind of been battling it out for the warm spot. They're tied up again at 57 each. Our temperatures this morning, I told you it was going to be almost 20 degrees warmer. I was not lying to you. We are anywhere from about 15 to almost 25 degrees warmer now than where we were at this time yesterday morning, which of course would also compare to Monday morning because we started pretty similar Monday morning. All right, low 50s out there. Kids getting on the bus. South winds gusting to 25 this morning. Partly cloudy, bus bringing them home. Low 70s. South winds again, as I mentioned, starting to gust upwards of 35. Highs today for most of us into the low to mid 70s. Partly cloudy. And again, some of our friends out west might even make the upper 70s. We do have that cold front coming through tomorrow morning. It's going to drop us back just a little bit with our temperatures. We'll talk about that and have a look at that weekend forecast for you here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
Chris, thanks. Well, voters in some communities in Missouri and Kansas headed to the polls yesterday. Now, we now have the results. Issues on the ballots include school bonds, park improvements, tax question improvements, and funding for emergency services. In several communities are also choosing their local government leaders. Now we start in Carthage, where there are 2 questions. The first asks to raise the current operating levy. That would be a 55-cent property tax increase to fund a salary increase for Carthage School District teachers. This question passes. The second question would extend the current tax to pay for a bond up to $25 million for building renovations, a new performing arts auditorium, and tornado safety shelter. This question also passes. East Newton School's proposition Safe Kids asks voters to extend to current tax levy to fund the construction of 2 storm shelter multi-purpose classrooms at the Granby and Triway campuses. This proposition passes. The Jasper School District asks voters to pass a levy for learning question. It would increase the operating tax levy to help attract and retain quality teachers and staff. This question passes by a sizable margin. Now, voters in the Sarcoxy School District decided a $2.5 million school bond. Proposition Care would fund a number of projects, including safety improvements and athletic facility upgrades. The bond did not pass. And in Seneca, voters are asked to extend the current tax levy to pay for a $9 million bond. This would fund improvements at the current school facilities, construct tornado safe rooms at the junior high, and build a new center for career exploration at the high school. This question passes. Now, in our lone Kansas school district, voters in Galena decide on a $7.5 million school bond to pay for campus upgrades, roof repairs, and an elevator replacement. This bond would not raise taxes, only extend the current operating levy. It passes by a wide margin. Now, switching gears, there were two candidates running for mayor in Carthage. David Brand Flanagan is the winner over Ed Hardesty. Now, the Carthage community has dealt with turmoil surrounding its city leadership over the past year. In the Goodman, Missouri mayor's race, Clay Sexton defeats J.R. Fisher. Now, that sets up an interesting case, and here's why. Now, the same two candidates ran for the position of South Ward alderman. Sexton wins that race as well. Now, there's quite the question as to how the outcome should be handled, and it could set a statewide precedent considering the Secretary of State's office isn't sure either. And to find voting information for your area, you can just scan this QR code. It'll take you to election resources on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. You'll be able to find all sorts of election info, including polling places and schedules. You can even check to see if you're registered to vote. Well, the Sunflower State recently passes a number of new laws. KOAM's Melissa Alexis explains how these new rules will impact Kansans.
The new Kansas laws will affect groups from companies to residents to local government.
Dependents of members of the National Guard will now have some extra educational benefits. A new law expands the Educational Assistance Act, and they can earn a higher education certificate or degree. Another new law in the education realm created a grant fund to support technical colleges in Kansas. It aims to help schools better meet the needs of students. The State Board of Regents will manage the fund. One law protects victims of fires started by electric company equipment. A claim must be made within 2 years of the fire, and in a few cases, 10 years. There's also a new aim for transparency through a law that requires local governments to report economic development incentives. They'll have to post in an online public database anything over $50,000 with annual updates. Lastly, the Act criminalizes unauthorized access and damage to critical infrastructure facilities, including newly defined telecommunication structures, with penalties from misdemeanors to felonies to protect essential services.
These are just a few of the laws that Kansas lawmakers have approved within the last month, but there have actually been more than 10. I'm Melissa Alexis reporting.
You can find more information on new Kansas laws on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Instagram has announced it's expanding protections on its teen accounts, including live streaming. Plus, President Trump's tariffs take effect. We'll see how this is impacting the economy. And Chris Warner returns with another look at your Wednesday forecast. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. But first, here's more election results from Southwest Missouri. Well, topping Nation Watch this morning, those home improvement projects will have to be put on hold Easter Sunday. That is, if you're a Lowe's customer. The retailer says it will close its doors on April 20th, Easter Sunday. This is the 6th year in a row that Lowe's has chosen to close for the holiday. A company spokesperson says it's an appreciation of their employees and to give them time to spend with loved ones. Other stores like Best Buy, Costco, Target, and TJ Maxx will also be closed. Well, the way your teen uses Instagram is changing once again. Instagram unveiled the new protections it's adding to its teen accounts on Tuesday. Now, among the changes, teens under the age of 16 will be prohibited from going live without a parent's permission. A teen will also need a parent to sign off on them turning off the feature that blurs images that may contain nudity in direct messages. Now, the new protections will be available in the coming months, and parents are in luck if their teen also uses Facebook and Messenger. Teen accounts will soon be available on those platforms, and they will have similar protection as the teen accounts on Instagram. Well, companies are increasingly using artificial intelligence to sort through applicants before they reach a human recruiter, and that could be good news for job seekers. Now, nearly half of hiring managers report using AI to screen resumes and applications. Now, that's according to data from job seeker resource site Resume Genius. An HR advisory firm says new AI tools can understand the content of a resume, meaning they can help spot candidates even if their resumes don't mention certain keywords. Well, this morning, American shoppers are bracing for economic impact as President Trump's reciprocal tariffs went into effect on goods from almost every country on Earth. Now, for goods from China, the tariff is now 104%. The White House says countries are coming to them ready to make a deal, but with no agreements, financial markets sank early this morning. Jared Hill has the latest.
We're making deals, and people are paying tariffs.
President Trump championed his new dose of so-called tariff medicine as he says countries are flocking to negotiate with the new reciprocal tariffs hitting overnight.
They're giving us everything.
The president says leaders from Japan and South Korea are headed to the U.S. to negotiate. Vietnam and Zimbabwe have said they would scrap tariffs on U.S. products. The EU has said it'll eliminate tariffs on industrial goods and cars if the U.S. does the same. And no progress with the defiant China. Instead, a 104% tariff after Beijing refused to drop its 34% tariff on U.S. goods, likely meaning more expensive electronics and clothing. Imported produce largely spared, most coming from Canada and Mexico, which have been exempted. But food industry experts warn some prices may rise quickly for some perishable staples like bananas.
Fresh products, because you can't build up inventories and there's a limited lifespan, you will feel that quickly, maybe as soon as a week or 10 days.
On Capitol Hill, some Republican senators challenged the White House's strategy during a hearing with the U.S. Trade Representative.
I'm just trying to figure out whose throat I get to choke if it's wrong, and who I put up on a platform and thank them for the novel approach that was successful if they're right.
As financial markets continue their roller coaster.
It's still early innings in seeing what the final shape of tariff policy for the United States is going to be.
Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
And that's a look at some of today's top national stories. Here's Chris with a look at your forecast.
Yeah, temperatures milder this morning. Still a bit on the cool side, though. The Skywatch Storm Tracker showing those partly cloudy skies rolling into the area. We'll have another full look at your forecast when we come back.
Well, a pair of strangers jumped into action to save two women from a car that crashed into a creek. Zane Sina has the story.
It's pure adrenaline. You don't have time to think in that moment.
Caleb Moore was ordering at this cookout when he says a car leaving the drive-thru suddenly sped up, jumped the curb, and dropped right into this creek, landing upside down.
Everyone just heard the engine rev up to the max. She went completely right over the curb and just disappeared.
Moore says his friend instantly ran towards the car, sliding down this near 20-foot drop. Moore followed without hesitation.
Got scratched up a little bit down there.
He says the car was filled with water. The engine was still revving because the driver's foot was stuck on the gas. You can see only the tires and part of the doors were above water. Moore's friend pried open the driver's side door and pulled out the driver by her arm.
And I'm just like, is there anyone else in the car? Is there anyone else in the car? And she said there's one more person.
Moore moved to the passenger side where the door was already opened, but the passenger was stuck in her seatbelt.
This woman's literally upside down, stuck, basically drowning right now. I get her head right above the water, and it's just like half of her face so she can breathe.
He held her up to breathe while his friends freed her. Moore shared this video with me of the rescue. He says once both women were out of the car, 10 of Moore's friends made a human chain up the 20-foot cliff to pull them to safety. EMS arrived shortly after.
They would have came too late. So we had to act then.
Incredible story. Now let's head over to Chris for a quick look at your forecast.
We're starting off a little milder this morning, not in the 30s today, and our coldest temperatures so far have been the upper 40s, which I know is a nice improvement. We'll have another full look at your forecast when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. 6:22 now on this Wednesday morning, and we are starting with the future track. We're going to have those partly cloudy skies, already seeing them this morning. That will continue through today. We'll also have gusty south winds, so if you're driving a high-profile vehicle on any east-west roadways, you do want to be cautious out there with those gusty winds. Temperatures, though, pretty nice, and our western counties could even get a little close to 80 today. Maybe not to that point, but pretty close. Now, late this evening and overnight, the winds will actually calm down, and we'll have just a few clouds after midnight. Clouds begin to return Thursday morning, and then that cold front sweeps through early in the morning as well. Before noon, it should be through most of the area. Behind it, northwest winds kick in, so our temperatures will be a little cooler tomorrow. But as you can see, it's not a significant impact to the temperatures, but it does make it a little cooler than what we're expecting today. The other thing is we're going to have gusty northwest winds back behind that front, pushing about 25 miles an hour. Now, overnight, Thursday and the Friday be a little cooler as well, but as you can see, not quite to the same levels we saw Monday and Tuesday morning. And because of that, though, by Friday, we still have a north breeze, so we're still a little chilly compared to what we're expecting today. And even tomorrow, you can see we'll be about 10 degrees cooler for most of us heading into Friday afternoon. But otherwise, we are dry, a few clouds to start the day, and then outside of that, it is sunny. Not going to be too bad. Here's where we're standing right now. There's some of those clouds, making it partly cloudy in Joplin. 55, south wind at 17. Temperatures around the region are quite nice. Cold spot at this point still looks to be Cassville at 47, but also keep in mind, if you're just joining us, yesterday morning, Stockton was the cold spot, and they were at 28 at their coldest. So 47's not that bad. The rest of us, a low to mid 50s out there. Chanute, the warm spot, at 57 right now. So a nice start to the day. All right, mid 50s to start, partly cloudy skies, mid 60s by 11 a.m. Again, ahead of highs for most of us in the low to mid 70s. Again, some of our western counties could make the upper 70s. South winds gusting upwards of 35. Into the evening, the winds will shift out of the west. By late evening, they'll slow down, and then they become calm overnight. But take a look at 10 o'clock tonight. Low 60s out there. Mostly clear tonight. Upper 40s, low 50s. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, a little cooler. Upper 60s, low 70s. Friday, much cooler, though. We fall back into the low 60s, maybe some upper 50s, and that will leave us a little colder, but still not to freezing points by Friday night. However, we head into the weekend. Take a look at Sunday, windy, warmer, near 80. And we cool back down a bit on Monday, and we'll spend next week in the upper 60s and low 70s. And we're keeping an eye on some thunderstorm chances by the middle of next week. That's a check of your forecast. We're going to send over to Lisa now with Health Watch.
All right, Chris, thanks. Well, topping Health Watch this morning, despite more funding for mental health care at work, employees are becoming even more stressed. Now, a study by the European Psychiatric Association found workers say deadlines and demands placed on them are worse than ever, and many fear their jobs will make them sick. Now, young people in particular seem to be more vulnerable to work-related stress. Well, mindfulness, yoga, and Tai Chi can lower your blood pressure, at least in the short term. A study published in the British Medical Journal found relaxation techniques are effective at lowering high blood pressure for the first 3 months, but the long-term effects are still unclear. Well, many studies show that working the night shift is bad for the heart, but when you eat could lower the risks. Now, a study by Brigham and Women's Hospital showed that night shift workers who only ate during the daytime showed better cardiovascular health than those who ate during both day and night. Now, researchers say daytime eating exclusively helps readjust your internal body clock. And that's a look at some of today's top health stories. We'll be right back. Right now at 6:30, a Carthage church serves up appreciation and breakfast for some bus drivers.
And we've got a pretty decent start to the day, especially compared to the last couple of days. We'll have a look at forecasts, get you out the door coming up.
Plus, hundreds of area students all add up at Pitt State for its annual math race.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News at 6:29. I'm Elise Snowy.
I'm Chris Warner. It's Wednesday. It's April the 9th. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We have made it halfway through this work week. And we had an election yesterday, so we're all doing all right so far, I think.
Yeah, not too bad.
And our Wednesday treating us nicely as well. It's a little warmer out there. I had to get gas yesterday. I knew I wasn't going to make it, but man, I was really trying to make it to today. That way I wouldn't, be out there in the 30s pumping fuel. But you don't really get many choices. I'm too lazy. When we're done here, I am too tired to go to the gas station. I just want to go home.
I'm always negotiating with myself. Like, you don't want to do it in the morning. You don't want to do it in the morning.
Yeah, you got to figure it out. It's tough sometimes, but we have managed to accomplish things, and we're going to accomplish more things this morning, starting with a look outside downtown Pittsburgh. We got those partly cloudy skies. The sun slowly starting to rise out there, and the temperature is quite nice as well. MoDOT camera 20th and Rangeline. Look at all these cars on the road. Where do they come from? Where do they go? Where is Cotton Eye Joe? Nobody knows. But look at all these folks heading out to start their Wednesday, and they should be in a really good mood because the temperatures are in a really good mood this morning, and they'll be even an even better mood by this afternoon. Partly cloudy, breezy though. So if you are driving a high-profile vehicle, especially on any east-west roadways today, you do want to keep that in mind. We'll have very gusty south winds. By this evening, those winds ease up, shift out of the west, and then overnight, they actually will become calm, which will be quite nice. But look at these temperatures. 55 in Joplin right now, 51 in Pittsburgh. These two really haven't moved that much. In fact, a lot of our temperatures so far this morning haven't moved all that much. The warm spot is Chanute at 57. The cold spot, Cassville at 47. But again, Stockton was the cold spot yesterday morning at 28. So this is putting us anywhere from 15 to nearly 25 degrees warmer this morning than where we were yesterday morning. And I told you yesterday morning too, I said we're going to be about 20 degrees warmer tomorrow morning, and here we are, and we certainly are. Nicer start to the day. Low 50s, kids getting on the bus, partly cloudy, those south winds gusting to 25. They increase through the morning, eventually gusting to 35. It'll be about 73 when those kids come home. Partly cloudy for everybody. The majority of us into the low to mid 70s today for our highs, but some of our far western counties could even make the upper 70s. And we still have that cold front tomorrow morning. That's going to bring temperatures down a little bit. And then we'll heat back up again a little into the weekend. We'll talk about all of that in the full forecast here in just a few more minutes. Elise.
All right, Chris, thanks. Well, voters in some communities in Missouri and Kansas headed to the polls yesterday. We now have the results. Several area communities voted on tax proposals yesterday. They included a proposed quarter-cent sales tax in Jasper County to create a children's services fund. Now, supporters say it would generate $5 million a year, and voters rejected that idea. Martin County, Missouri voters were asked to fund MU extension programs through their property taxes. Voters said no to that proposal. We've told you about the proposal to impose a 3% tax for some online purchases in Neosho, Missouri to go toward parks and recreation projects. Voters apparently didn't like that idea. That issue fails. Oronogo had its own online sales tax proposal on the ballot, and voters give a thumbs down to that proposal. In Goodman, Missouri, voters rejected a half-cent sales tax proposal for public safety and law enforcement funding. Goodman also considered an online sales tax of 1.5%. Voters there narrowly approved the proposal. The proposal in Knoll, Missouri was to make a 3/8 cent sales tax permanent. Now, Knoll voters approved the idea. We'll have more election results in a bit. And to find voting information for your area, you can just scan this QR code. It'll take you to election resources on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. You'll be able to find all sorts of election info, including polling places and schedules. You can even check to see if you're registered to vote. Neosho County Commissioners meet yesterday to discuss a road and bridge sales tax that voters approved last August. Now, leaders say they do not have any concrete plans on which projects they will work on first, but do plan to discuss their options in more detail at a later date.
Started in January of this year, January 1st, 2025, is when it starts accumulating. We are getting ready to open the funding account, so we have to get that lined out through our CIC process.
Now, the commission was scheduled to talk about its plan to work with the community's solar power system. However, that is currently rescheduled until Tuesday. And it was a celebration of transportation yesterday morning at Forest Park Church in Carthage. The church honored the transportation department of Carthage schools by serving bus drivers a full breakfast, including biscuits and gravy, sausage, and eggs. The event was inspired by one of the church's pastors, who has a family history of bus drivers.
It's very valuable. They are crucial to the Carthage schools. They're crucial to our community. They put their lives at risk every day on the roads. They're responsible for the safety of all the kids getting to school.
The official National Bus Driver Appreciation Day will be later this month on April 22nd. And Pittsburgh State University hosted its 55th annual math relays, bringing together over 850 high school students from 52 schools across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. Now, the event featured intense timed relay math tests where teams of 4 competed, each taking a leg of every challenge. Educators highlight the event as a valuable opportunity for students to tackle complex problems without utilizing modern technologies.
It's just a really fun competition and exercise to practice our math skills in kind of a non-school environment and a bit outside of school, so it's also a bit competitive in the fact, so it's pretty fun doing that.
It's difficult, but just with the technology alone that the students have accessible to make sure that they're really applying themselves and learning it and just not reaching out to those AI and Google, things like that, and finding out, well, here's the answer and here's how you work the problem, rather want them to be able to better apply themselves and learn it.
Most students we spoke to wanted to study a math-related subject after high school, like the medical field or science field. Others did it just for fun. And that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, Easter spending is said to rise, with billions being spent on candy and gifts. And we have a warmer and partly cloudy day today. We'll have what to expect with Chris Warner in the Skywatch Weather Center. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's more election results. In Consumer Watch this morning, President Donald Trump's sweeping tariff plan sent shockwaves through the global markets. But the next big impact could be on consumers' bottom lines. Karen Kaifa is in Washington with a look at where tariffs could pinch consumers' wallets first.
Some experts say the first place where consumers could feel President Trump's sweeping tariffs could be the grocery store.
Have a look at where each of the grocery items you're buying came from. Where did the avocados come from? Where did the vegetables come from? Where did your pasta come from? And a lot of it came from abroad.
Especially the produce aisle, because fresh fruits and vegetables have high turnover, and many household favorites require some supply from abroad, like bananas from Costa Rica and Guatemala, and grapes from Chile. Also with a short shelf life, seafood. About 80% of seafood in the U.S. comes from countries like Canada, Chile, India, Indonesia, and Vietnam, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Further out, look to coffee prices perking up. The National Coffee Association says more than 99% of U.S. coffee is imported. At big box retailers, the Consumer Technology Association estimates current retail inventories of items like laptops and tablets will last about 3 to 4 months. It predicts higher prices could arrive by late summer in time for back-to-school season. The Toy Association says it's a similar timeline for toys, which they say the U.S. imported by the billions from China and Vietnam last year. That underscores why economists are concerned about how broad tariffs could crimp consumer spending, businesses, and the U.S. economy.
It's a massive tax increase on American consumers, particularly lower middle income households, and it crushes businesses that sell to those consumers, but also buy a lot of imported product to produce whatever they're producing.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
On Wall Street, stocks tumbled again Tuesday, the Dow falling 320 points, as markets reacted to President Trump's 104% retaliatory tariff against China. Now, these tariffs took effect at midnight, making good on the president's threat to punish Beijing unless it withdraws retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. Now, China has vowed to, quote, fight to the end. And Easter is next weekend, and retail analysts say consumers are hopping to it when it comes to holiday shopping. Now, a new National Retail Federation report shows U.S. consumer spending for Easter is expected to rise about 5% this year to an estimated $23.6 billion. And now at the top of the shopping list, candy, food, and gifts, with consumers expected to spend more than $3 billion on Easter candy alone. Well, finally, Uber has unveiled the nation's most forgetful city. Uber executives announced Tuesday New Yorkers left more items behind in Uber vehicles than residents of any other city. The most commonly forgotten items were keys, wallets, and phones, with a whopping 1.7 million iPhones and Androids left in the back of Uber vehicles in 2024. And that's it for Consumer Watch. Here's Chris with another look at your forecast.
Yeah, thankfully that list wasn't as detailed as the one we ran just before 6 o'clock this morning. So if you want to know more in detail about what strange and intriguing items people are leaving behind in Uber, just go back to our KOAM News Now on YouTube, and you can watch the 5 o'clock show, and right there toward the end, we talk about it. Now, we're going to talk about this. These are clouds, and this is sky, leaving us partly cloudy from our camera downtown Pittsburgh. MoDOT camera, 20th and Range Line, looking pretty good as well so far. On to the future track into the afternoon. Partly cloudy skies. We'll also have those gusty south winds. So again, if you're driving a high-profile vehicle, especially on any east-west roadways, be aware we're going to have those gusts up to 35 at times out there. Temperatures, though, thanks to the winds, will be much warmer today, and our far western counties might even make it into the upper 70s. Now, as we go into the evening, winds will ease up. They'll be out of the west, and then overnight they'll actually become calm, and skies will become mostly clear before we see the clouds return again and the gusty winds return again for our Thursday. We're at 55 in Joplin, 51 in Pittsburgh, and these two temperatures here have really not moved much. In fact, most of our temperatures this morning have only been going up or down a degree or two here or there. Chinook is the warm spot right now at 57 and 10 degrees cooler. Cassville, the cold spot at 47. But as I've been mentioning this morning, keep in mind, Stockton, their coldest yesterday as the cold spot was 28. So all of us warmer, anywhere from about 15 to nearly 25 degrees warmer this morning than where we were 24 hours ago, which is certainly a pleasant change. Kids getting on the bus, low 50s, south winds gusting to 25, and partly cloudy skies, still partly cloudy this afternoon, low 70s, those south winds gusting to 35 when the bus brings them back home. We're going to have another look at your forecast. We're also going to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, but first, here's what's happening on CBS Mornings.
I'm Gail Kane. Coming right up on CBS Mornings, supermodel Ashley Graham will join us to discuss her Broadway debut in Chicago and how she's putting her own unique stamp on this iconic character, Roxy Hart. That's coming right up on CBS Mornings.
All right, time for those Wednesday birthdays. We're going to start in Oswego with Lexi Whalen celebrating birthday number 9. Happy birthday.
And happy 15th birthday to Braxton Whitley over in Chanute. It says here, love your family.
And in Scammon, Jessica Humble celebrating birthday number 24 today. Happy birthday.
And in Erie, a happy 39th birthday to Mac Clayson. It says here, happy birthday, love the boys.
And in Pittsburgh, Kelly High School celebrating birthday number 46. And see, she hadn't looked a day over one in that photo. It says, "Love you bunches from your family."
And in Riverton, a happy birthday to Vernon Ross. It says here, happy birthday to the world's most wonderful son-in-law. Love you.
And our list continues with Elizabeth Tanknell celebrating birthday number 78. It says, happy birthday, love Sarah, Mark, Andy, Janet, and all of the grand and great grandkids.
And a happy birthday to Melvin Stewart in Branson.
Never mind. Anyway.
Kansas. Ronson, Kansas, excuse me.
Look, I've made enough mistakes today. I can't say anything really. But if you would like to celebrate with us, I think we've got some information that we have to share with you, maybe.
Yes, I think we do. Go ahead and submit your birthdays and anniversaries to birthdays@koamnewsnow.com. Be sure to meet the deadline that you see there at the bottom of your screen, and to also include the date of your celebration when submitting as well.
Absolutely. Want to make sure you include that information for us. And I'm telling you, this Wednesday feeling a lot more like a Monday here at KOAM, except for our crew in the back. They've been on it all morning. Like, you know, we've not been on it all morning, but those guys back there taking care of business for us out here, because we are either not awake, the coffee's not strong enough, or I don't know, maybe the planets are out of alignment. So we appreciate you sticking with us. We like to have fun, though. Hopefully it's been somewhat amusing for some of you. And if it's not, I do apologize. The forecast, not amusing, but very pleasant. Partly cloudy skies today. A reminder, we're going to have those south winds gusting upwards of 35. So high-profile vehicles especially. And, of course, if you're traveling on any east-west highways, you just want to make sure you're holding on to the wheel. Watch out for those gusts out there, because you don't want them to catch off guard. Temperatures, though, today, thanks to those south winds, will be much warmer. Most of us will top out about the mid-70s, but some of our western counties going into the upper 70s. So a very nice day, especially compared to how we've started the last couple of mornings. Even this morning is better than where we've been. Overnight tonight, a couple of things happen. One, skies clear out a bit, and two, the winds will become calm. Then get that low pressure. It's going to have a little cold front with it. It's going to end up bringing us some cooler weather tomorrow. Toward tomorrow morning, clouds begin to increase again. We start to go partly cloudy, still starting mild. You can see a lot more low 50s out there by 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. But once that cold front passes through in the morning, we're going to end up with temperatures just a wee bit cooler. And we'll have gusty northwest winds on the backside of this that'll occasionally reach about 25 miles an hour. But that cold front, again, it's not a major drop in temperatures for tomorrow. It's not bringing any kind of precipitation or anything with it. By the time we get into the evening, still a bit breezy. Skies clearing a little bit. We're looking at mostly clear to clear skies overnight Thursday into Friday. Now, we're still dealing with those north winds, so it's still some cool air being filtered into our Friday. So, yes, we do start a little colder Friday morning, but not at the freezing levels like we saw yesterday and Monday, and we will be a bit cooler by Friday afternoon. We're talking temperatures maybe about 10 degrees cooler on Friday than where we'll be on Thursday, but still not that bad, and we're looking at mostly sunny skies, so not bad at all. Speaking of partly cloudy skies is what we have, and you can see the trees blowing. That wind already starting to pick up out there. This temperature is really barely budged all morning long. We're 55 in Joplin, south breeze 17. That's been the case for just about everybody this morning. Temperature is not really moving a lot. Warm spot still Chanute at 57, 10 degrees cooler as the cold spot in Cassville at 47. But just again, a nice friendly reminder as to how much nicer 47 is. Stockton, cold spot yesterday, got as cold as 28 degrees yesterday morning. So this isn't that bad. All right, there's another nice view of that sunrise. 7th range line. Again, partly cloudy skies through the day. About the mid-50s to start, because again, our temperatures really aren't moving that much. And we'll eventually make the mid-60s by 11 o'clock this morning. We're going to have another look at your forecast, plus the news you need to know here in just a moment. And if you stick with us over on Fox 14, we'll make it there by 7 a.m. And we're going to talk about a species of wolf that last roamed the earth around 13,000 years ago. Soon be revived. But that's only if you stick with us. Fox 14 at 7 a.m.
And here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The state of Kansas has passed several new laws within the last month. Through a new law, dependents of National Guard members will now have some extra educational benefits. Another protects victims of fires started by electric company equipment. Lastly, a new law criminalizes unauthorized access and damage to critical infrastructure facilities. Neosho County commissioners met to discuss a road and bridge sales tax that voters approved last August. The leaders say they do not have any concrete plans on which projects they will work on first, but do plan to discuss their options in more detail at a later date. The commission was scheduled to talk about its plans to work with the community's solar power systems. That's been rescheduled for next Tuesday. And to find voting information for your area, just scan this QR code. It'll take you to election resources on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. You'll be able to find all sorts of election info, including polling places and schedules. You can even check to see if you're registered to vote. And that's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And as you head out the door, warmer this morning and warmer this afternoon, right around the mid-70s for most of us. Some of our western counties, though, upper 70s. Partly cloudy skies, breezy, though. South winds gusting upwards of 35 miles an hour. Into the evening, partly cloudy skies, initially still mild, low 60s by 10. Mostly clear overnight, just a few clouds, and those winds give us a brief break. Back into the upper 40s, low 50s. Tomorrow, that cold front passes through, drops our temperatures just a wee bit, back in the low 70s for most of us, and it'll still be breezy. Northwest winds gusting upwards of 25. A bit cooler for Friday, but still not that bad, pushing close to 80 by Sunday, and then watching some thunderstorm chances next week.
Well, coming up today at noon, we're making deviled egg dip in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
And your morning news continues on KOAM with CBS Mornings. The battle over tariffs is raising costs and hurting businesses. Ahead on CBS Mornings, Jill Schleichinger and Kelly O'Grady address how we can all deal with the financial uncertainty.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. Now, this morning, Krista Cunningham joins us in the studio to talk about this year's Art Walk in Pittsburgh.
Also, Michelle Brocksterman joining us in the studio for another Wildcat Wednesday. However, it's going to wrap it up for us for now. We will be back here with more coffee tomorrow morning at 5 a.m.
And we'll see you today at noon.